If you want to know the average height of a class of students, simple math works just fine. You take out a tape measure, write down everyone's height, add those numbers up, and you just divide by the number of kids in the room.
Right, it's super straightforward. Boom, you have your average.
Exactly. It is clean, it's easy, and it is exactly what we were all taught in grade school. But if you try to take that exact same simple math and apply it to your 401k, well, you are going to have a very, very bad time.
You really are. It completely breaks down.
Yeah, and that mathematical trap is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're looking at a brilliantly detailed piece by Michael Kitzes from kitzes.com. It's called Volatility Drag: How Variance Drains Investment Returns.
It's such an eye-opening article.
It really is. It exposes this hidden quirk in the math that honestly might be secretly altering your retirement plan right now as we speak. So our mission for this deep dive is to shortcut your path to being really well informed about this invisible drain on your wealth. That way, you can actually understand the projections your financial advisor is handing you.
That's the perfect way to frame it, because today is really all about looking under the hood of those financial projections.
Right.
We take a tool perfectly designed for one job, like measuring students with a tape measure, and we just blindly apply it to the complex compounding reality of the stock market.
And the consequences of that innocent mistake, they can be absolutely devastating to a long-term plan.
Oh, entirely.
Yeah.
We want to understand not just what numbers financial advisors are plugging into their software, but why they are using those specific numbers. Because when you understand the mechanics of how your money is being projected, you're empowered to think critically about your own financial future.
Yeah, you stop taking a computer printout as gospel. So, to understand how our returns actually get drained, we first have to understand the two very different ways of calculating an average.
Right. We have to move out of the grade school classroom and into the reality of the stock market.
Because for the longest time, I just assumed an average was an average.
Well, most people do. What we learned in school is called the arithmetic mean. Like you said with the students, you add up the individual items, divide by how many there are, and you get your answer.
It's simple enough.
Yeah, but it only works flawlessly for things that are completely independent of one another. The height of one student does not magically shrink or stretch the student standing next to them, right? If I get an A on my math test, it doesn't artificially bump your grade down to a C.
Right. They are independent items. They don't interact at all.
Exactly. But investment returns do not behave like test scores or tape measures. In investing, the results of one year are intimately, fundamentally linked to the results of the next year.
Because of compounding.
Yes. Year two's returns compound based on whatever money was left over after year one. They are completely interdependent. And because of that compounding, you cannot use the simple arithmetic mean.
Okay, so what do you use instead?
You have to use something called the geometric mean, which is often referred to in the industry as the compound average growth rate, or CAGR.
Wait, I have to play devil's advocate here, because the average listener's brain is probably flashing a warning sign right now. I know mine was.
Go for it.
If I add up 10 numbers and divide by 10, that is the average, how can a basic calculator be wrong about money?
It's a great question.
Let's say I have this wild, aggressive portfolio, right?
Yeah.
I make 100% one year, and then the next year I lose 50%. 100% gain plus a negative 50% loss equals a positive 50%. Divide that by 2 years, my arithmetic average is a 25% gain per year.
That's the math, yeah.
So on paper, I should be rich. Why doesn't that work?
Well, let's walk through your exact math with real dollars, because it perfectly illustrates the trap here. Let's say you start with $10,000. In year one, you hit that 100% return. You are thrilled.
My 10 grand just doubled to 20 grand. I'm feeling like a Wall Street genius.
As you should. But then year two hits. You suffer that 50% loss. Here's the catch. You don't lose 50% of your original $10,000. You lose 50% of your new compounded balance of $20,000.
Oh, right.
And half of $20,000 is $10,000. So after 2 full years of riding this incredible roller coaster, you are back to the exact same $10,000 you started with.
Wow. Okay, when you put it in actual dollars, it clicks. It made literally $0.
Exactly. Your arithmetic average told you that you were making 25% a year, but your actual experienced return, like the money in your wallet, was exactly 0.
That's wild.
Your geometric mean, your actual compound average growth rate, was 0. And this isn't just some extreme theoretical puzzle either. The source material grounds this in reality using the actual S&P 500 index.
Right, from the 10 years between 2007 and 2016.
Yes. If you take the straight returns for each of those 10 years and just add them up, they total almost 88%. Divide by 10, and you get an arithmetic average return of roughly 8.75% per year.
Which sounds pretty fantastic for a 10-year stretch that includes a major recession.
It really does. On paper, if you started with $10,000 in 2007, an 8.75% average return means you should have walked away at the end of 2016 with over $23,000.
Okay, but what's the catch?
The catch is, if you actually put $10,000 into the S&P 500 over that exact decade and just let it ride, your final balance was only about $19,600.
That is a massive gap. That's what, around $3,500 just missing from the projection? Where did it go?
It was swallowed by the sequence of the returns. The order in which you experience gains and losses matters immensely when money is compounding.
So it's about the path the money takes.
Precisely. In 2007, the market went up about 5.5%. Your 10 grand grew to a little over 10,500. But then 2008 happened, a brutal 37% drop.
Yeah, that was a tough year for everyone.
And that crash didn't just hurt your feelings, it destroyed the base capital you needed for the eventual recovery. So in 2009, when the market roared back with a massive 26% gain, you weren't getting 26% on your original 10 grand.
Because it was gone.
Right, you were only getting 26% on the measly $6,600 you had left after the crash.
So because the base was chopped down so severely, the recovery was mathematically weaker. I mean, it takes a much larger percentage gain just to dig yourself out of a deep hole.
You nailed it. When you calculate the actual real-world growth that gets you to that final $19,600 balance, the geometric mean is only 6.9%.
I really want to let that sink in for a second for you listening, because this is the core of the issue. A simple arithmetic average of 8.75%, but an actual geometric return of just 6.9%.
That's a huge difference.
That is a gap of nearly 2 full percentage points. And like we just saw, that difference isn't just some rounding error for a math nerd to obsess over. That is thousands of missing dollars from a standard $10,000 investment.
Just imagine that missing 2% on $1 million retirement nest egg over 30 years. It's staggering.
It is staggering. And what's crucial to understand is that this gap, this missing money, is not just bad luck from a bear market hitting at the wrong time.
No, it's an inevitable, unbreakable mathematical law. It is a phenomenon known as volatility drag. The more volatile the returns, the wider the gap between the simple arithmetic average and the geometric reality.
You know, here's where it gets really interesting for me. I was trying to visualize this gap, and I realized volatility drag is exactly like driving a car on a really bumpy dirt road.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Let's say your car's engine has the horsepower to maintain an average speed of 60 miles an hour, right? On a perfectly flat, paved highway, you'll effortlessly cover 60 miles in 1 hour. Simple.
Sure.
But if you take that exact same car with the exact same engine and put it on a road filled with massive potholes and huge ridges, what happens? The violent ups and downs of the suspension literally drain the car's forward momentum.
The engine is working just as hard, but you're going slower.
Exactly. The rougher the road, the slower you actually travel, no matter what the speedometer says. The bounce steals your speed.
I absolutely love that analogy. The bounce steals your speed. Mathematically, the bounce on that dirt road is what we call variance. In statistics, variance is defined as the standard deviation squared.
Okay.
The standard deviation is basically a measurement of how deep the potholes are.
Right, but why do we square it? That always seemed like an arbitrary math rule to me when I was in school.
We square it because it mathematically amplifies the really deep potholes. Think about your dirt road analogy. Hitting a 2-inch pothole is annoying, but it doesn't slow you down much.
Right.
But hitting a 10-inch pothole doesn't just do 5 times the damage. It might break your axle and stop you completely.
Right.
Squaring the standard deviation captures the exponential damage that large market swings inflict on your compounding capital.
Oh, wow. So a 30% market drop hurts you exponentially more than 3 separate 10% drops.
Exactly. It accounts for the axle breaking potholes. And the source material gives us a brilliant, simple approximation formula to estimate how much speed those potholes steal.
Okay, what's the formula?
It says you can find your real geometric mean by taking your arithmetic return and subtracting half of the investment's variance.
Okay, let's test that formula using the S&P 500 example again. Over that 2007 to 2016 period, the S&P 500 had a standard deviation of roughly 18.9%.
Right. And if you square that to find the variance, you get about 3.56%.
Okay, so if the variance is 3.56%, the formula says I subtract half of that. Half of 3.56 is 1.78%. So if I take my paper arithmetic return of 8.75% and I subtract that 1.78% drag, I get 6.97%.
And that is incredibly close to the actual historical geometric return of 6.94%.
That's amazing. The math perfectly explains the missing money.
It does. The math proves that the volatility itself acts as a hidden tax on your wealth.
But wait, what if I don't drive on the dirt road? What if I'm a conservative investor and I put my money in something really safe, really smooth? Does the drag just magically go away?
Well, no. Even on a smooth road, there is still friction. The author, Michael Ketzes, uses the Barclays Aggregate Bond Index over that exact same 10-year period to prove this point.
Because bonds are obviously much smoother than stocks.
Right. The arithmetic average return for the bond index was 4.39%. And because it's a smooth road, the standard deviation, the depth of the potholes, was tiny, just 3.12%.
Okay, let's run the formula. A 3.12% standard deviation. So you square that to get the variance, which is, wow, just 0.10%. That is practically nothing.
It is practically nothing, but it is not zero. Half of 0.10% is just 0.05%. You still subtract it. 4.39% minus 0.05% gives you an estimated geometric return of 4.34%.
Which is pretty much exactly the actual geometric return of 4.35%.
Yes. So the drag was much, much smaller because the road was smoother. But mathematically, it still existed. Any variance, any bounce in the road at all, trains your compounded return.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the plot really thickens and things get dangerous for your actual retirement.
It really does.
We've clearly established that the geometric return is the real return. It's the money we actually get to spend in retirement after the potholes and the volatility drag have taken their toll.
Yes, it's the reality.
So logic naturally tells me that when my financial advisor sits me down to run a retirement projection, they should absolutely be using that lower realistic geometric number, right?
Well, if they are doing a simple straight line projection on a yellow notepad, yes. If your advisor just says, you have $1 million and we are going to assume it grows at exactly 7% every single year for 30 years, then using the geometric return is correct.
Because a straight line calculation has no volatility. It basically assumes a perfectly paved road with zero potholes.
Exactly. But nobody's retirement actually grows in a perfectly straight line, which is why the financial industry relies so heavily on Monte Carlo software.
Ah, right. That's the pivot point. Monte Carlo analysis doesn't draw a straight line.
No, it doesn't. It is a highly sophisticated computer simulation that tests the resilience of your retirement plan by running it through 1,000 different random lifetimes.
It's artificially generating bear markets, bull markets, crashes, and booms, all based on the probability of them happening.
Yes. It literally forces your digital portfolio to drive down 1,000 different bumpy dirt roads to see if your car survives the trip.
But wait. If the Monte Carlo software is specifically designed to create the bumps in the road by rolling the dice on random returns, what happens if you plug the geometric return into it? Because we just established that the geometric return already has the volatility drag taken out of it.
And this is the exact trap the article exposes, and honestly, it happens every single day. The investment industry almost exclusively talks in geometric returns, say GRs, annualized returns, because that's what clients actually experience.
Right.
So advisors naturally take those geometric numbers and just type them into the settings of their Monte Carlo software. But think about your car analogy. If you give the software a geometric return, you are handing the computer a car that has already been slowed down by the dirt road.
Oh, man.
And then the Monte Carlo software simulates the dirt road all over again.
Oh, no, it simulates the bumps a second time.
Yes. The software literally says, okay, you told me the average return is 7%. Let's start rolling the dice. Oops, simulated bear market. Let's drop the portfolio by 20% this year. But that 7% input already accounted for the bear market.
So you end up double counting the drag.
You do. The software applies volatility drag to a number that already had the volatility drag removed.
So the computer is double taxing the portfolio.
Exactly that. To get an accurate Monte Carlo simulation, you actually have to feed the computer the fake higher arithmetic average.
Wow.
You have to give it the artificially high number so that when the software does its job, rolls the dice, and applies the random volatility, the simulation drags that final number down to the correct geometric reality.
This is mind-blowing and honestly a little terrifying, because if the software double counts the drag, this isn't just a math error for actuaries to debate. This directly impacts real people trying to retire.
It does.
Let's imagine a 65-year-old client walking into their advisor's office today. What happens if their advisor makes this exact mistake?
Well, the article walks through a very realistic scenario to show that exact human impact. Let's say an advisor named Jeremy is planning for a 65-year-old client. He's looking at a 30-year retirement horizon.
Standard stuff.
Yeah, and he decides to use long-term 90-year historical averages for his assumptions just to be as robust as possible. Historically, stocks have a simple arithmetic average return about 11.45% with a 17% standard deviation. Bonds have an arithmetic average of 5.25% with a 5% standard deviation.
But Jeremy, like most of us, is used to seeing the geometric averages published everywhere on financial blogs and mutual fund fact sheets.
Right.
He is used to seeing that stocks return 10% in the long run and bonds return 5%. That's
Yeah.
what's ingrained in his head.
Yeah.
So he types 10% and 5% into his Monte Carlo software.
And disaster strikes silently behind the screen. Because Jeremy inputted 10% for stocks, the software applies the 17% standard deviation to it as it runs its thousands of simulations. It drags that 10% down to a simulated geometric reality of just 8.56%.
Oh, wow.
And for bonds, it drags the 5% down to 4.75%. Jeremy fully intended to model a 10% stock return, but his software is actively modeling an 8.56% return.
So to fix it, he would have had to input the higher arithmetic 11.45% for stocks so the software's random dice rolls could drag it down to the proper 10% reality.
That's the only way it works mathematically.
Yeah.
And the tangible impact of Jeremy's mistake is massive over a 30-year retirement. If this 65-year-old client has a moderate 50-50 portfolio, half stocks, half bonds, their intended long-term compounded return was supposed to be 7.5%.
Right.
But because Jeremy accidentally double-counted the drag, the software pushes the projected return down to just 6.65%. That is nearly a full 1% reduction every single year, compounded for 3 decades.
So what does this all mean for the client sitting across the desk? I kept trying to put myself in their shoes while reading this.
It's hard not to.
It feels exactly like packing for a trip to the airport and, assuming your suitcase weighs twice as much as it actually does.
That's a good way to look at it.
Right. You step on the bathroom scale at home, you panic because you think you are way over the limit, and you end up leaving half your wardrobe behind just to be safe. You leave your favorite shoes, you leave your heavy jackets.
Just to be cautious.
Exactly. Then you get to the airport, they put your bag on the official scale, and you realize you actually had plenty of room all along. Being accidentally conservative might sound safe to a financial advisor wanting to manage risk, but to the client, it means needlessly sacrificing your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
It could mean you are grinding away at a stressful job for 3 extra years for absolutely no reason at all.
And that is the tragic human cost of this math error. You aren't just adjusting numbers on a spreadsheet. You are altering people's life choices. The article quantifies the psychological dread perfectly, actually.
How so?
Well, let's say that client was planning to take a 5% initial withdrawal rate from their portfolio every year. A correct Monte Carlo analysis one, properly using the arithmetic inputs, would show an 87% probability of success.
Meaning, in 870 out of 1,000 simulated lifetimes, they never run out of money before they die.
Right. And in the financial planning world, 87% is a very solid sleep well at night number.
But with the double-counted drag, what does Jeremy's screen show?
With Jeremy's mistake, the software spits out a terrifying 76% probability of success.
Wow. 76% is danger zone territory for a lot of planners. An advisor sees 76% and immediately tells the client, we have a problem. You need to work longer. You need to save more. We have to cancel that dream vacation.
Right. The advisor artificially terrifies the client because they didn't understand the mechanics of the software they were using. Now, I should note a really critical caveat from the text here because the software industry isn't entirely blind to this issue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some modern Monte Carlo software developers have realized that advisors consistently make this mistake. So some programs are actually coded to recognize the error and automatically adjust those geometric inputs up to their arithmetic counterparts behind the scenes.
Oh, that's tricky. So the software is secretly fixing the human error without telling the advisor.
It's meant to be helpful, but it puts the burden entirely on the advisor to know their tools. It is completely on the financial planner to know exactly what their specific software is doing under the hood.
Right, like are they using a program that adjusts the numbers automatically, or are they using an older program that takes inputs literally?
Exactly. If an advisor doesn't know exactly how their software handles variance drain, they're gambling with their client's peace of mind. They could even end up double adjusting if they try to fix it manually in a program that already does it automatically.
Oh man, it's a minefield. Well, let's bring this all together. We started today by shattering the illusion of simple averages. We learned that the basic arithmetic math we use to measure a classroom of students completely breaks down when applied to compounding wealth.
Because investment returns are interconnected. The base of your wealth changes every single year.
From there, we discovered the mathematical law of volatility drag. We saw how the sheer variance, the bounce in the dirt road, inevitably drains the forward momentum of your money. The rougher the ride and the deeper the potholes, the lower your actual geometric return will be.
And finally, we expose the Monte Carlo trap, that dangerous paradox where entering the real geometric return into simulation software actually causes the computer to double count the drag.
Right, artificially taxing the portfolio and making a perfectly healthy, viable retirement plan look like a total disaster.
And as we always say, knowledge is only valuable when it is understood and applied. The absolute best thing you can do with this information is to take it directly into your next planning meeting.
Definitely.
The next time you sit down with a financial planner and they slide a Monte Carlo simulation across the desk, point to the probability of success and ask them, are these return assumptions based on arithmetic or geometric averages? And exactly how does this specific software handle them?
Watch their reaction closely. It will tell you a lot about how deeply they understand the tools they are using to guide your life.
It really will.
That is a phenomenal question to have in your back pocket. I love that you can use it as a litmus test for your advisor. And to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. If variance fundamentally acts as a hidden mathematical tax that destroys the compounding potential of your wealth over time, how does that change the way you look at the costs of chasing highly volatile, high-reward investments?
Building on that, it really forces you to question the true price of risk.
Exactly. If a wild, unpredictable asset boasts a massive average annual return on paper, are we entirely mispricing its real-world risk by ignoring the invisible mathematical drag of its own volatility? I mean, are the massive potholes simply too deep to ever maintain your forward speed?
It makes you wonder if boring, smooth roads really are better for building long-term wealth.
Something for you to think about until next time.
A fascinating perspective to leave on.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Remember, the next time someone tries to tell you your portfolio is growing based on simple math, tell them to put away the grade school tape measure because the real world is a very bumpy road. See you next time.